You're not lazy. You lack discipline because you don't know what exactly you want, or you don't know what needs to be done in order to get what you want. Discipline isn't willpower. It doesn't come from pushing through the discomfort. If you solely rely on that, you will burn out. Most people have no clue what needs to be done. They lack clarity, and that's the main problem. Step one to building lasting discipline is to know your why, know your purpose, know why you are doing what you're doing. Imagine you already had all the money. Imagine you already had all the status, but you still had to work. What would you work on? The reason this is important is because discipline comes as a natural byproduct of having a strong purpose. When your goal is so meaningful that it's more important than anything else, then taking action and being disciplined is not a problem because there is nothing else that you'd rather do. And this is the key to all of this. If you know your why, if you know your purpose, then discipline becomes easy because it's simply like there is no other option than just being disciplined, because what else is there to do if that's your most important goal? If distractions, if social media, if watching YouTube, smoking weed, playing video games, if those things are more important than your goal, then you clearly don't have a goal that's important enough. So focus on your why, focus on the reason why you're doing it. What is the life that you want to live? What is it actually that you truly want beyond money, beyond status, beyond whatever? Focus on what actually drives you. That will keep you pushing through the discomfort, through the uncertainty, where most people will quit because they don't have this why, they don't have this sense of purpose. Step two is exercise. And why this is so important, even taking the physical health benefits aside, is that working out builds discipline. If you are disciplined in a gym, if you're consistent in a gym, you will be more disciplined in every other area of life. And it is way easier to stick to going to the gym than it is to stick to working on something that you're uncertain about, like building a business, building a new project, creating something new. It's much harder to be disciplined with that than to be disciplined in a gym, because in a gym, you just lift weights. You just lift weights, you increase your weight, and you can make it fairly simple for yourself. So be consistent with exercise, work out 2 to 3 times a week and stick to it. And you'll notice that in every other area of your life, you will also become more disciplined. Step 3 is to get back to baseline. It's extremely hard to be disciplined when your brain is completely overstimulated. Most people constantly chase highs, chase pleasure, like scrolling, smoking weed, playing video games, watching videos all day, doing all of this excessive consumption. And when you do that, focusing on something and working on something becomes extremely unattractive, and you never feel like doing that. It's true that it's not all about motivation, but if you never feel motivated, if you never actually want to get up and do the work, then it's extremely hard to do it. And when you're constantly overstimulated from all the social media, all the chasing, all the pleasure, then you won't feel like doing the work, and it will be hard to focus and to sit down and do the mundane tasks, because it's not as dopamine inducing as those distractions. So you have to sacrifice the chasing. You don't have to, I'm not saying you have to cut everything out, but you have to drastically limit your consumption. Scrolling, eating junk food, smoking weed, playing video games, all of these things you can do in small doses. But when you regularly do these things and excessively do these things, you're just frying your brain, you're just frying your dopamine receptors, and your work will always feel hard and unattractive. And if you actually sacrifice the comfort and the pleasure, you will feel way more motivated, way more disciplined, and generally just eager to get up in the morning because your brain is not on this constant overstimulation. Step 4 is to personalize your routine. A big mistake that most people make is that they copy someone else's routine. They force themselves into this extreme schedule, these extreme regimens of doing exactly what some influencer, some guru told them. and then they burn out. The truth is, you're not most productive when you work the most amount of hours, but when you're aligned with your natural rhythms, when you're aligned with your natural inclinations, and you actually find a rhythm, a routine that works for you. So you have to create your own personal routine. And the way you can do that is you imagine the ideal life. You imagine what kind of life you want to live. Remember, a life where you already have all the money, but you still have to work. Let's say you have to work at least 4 hours a day. If you want to work more, that's fine. But imagine that ideal day, that ideal life. What does your routine look like? When do you get up? What do you do right after getting up? When do you start working? What do you do when you work exactly? And when do you rest? What does your rest look like? And you just structure this day in your mind and think about what is the ideal routine that I can imagine. That is your ultimate goal, to get to that ideal routine. Because when you're aligned with your natural rhythms, you will be way more productive because you'll actually want to do the work. You actually feel like you're doing the right things and you're not forcing yourself into some routine that someone else made. And it's really about wanting to be disciplined. The more you actually make it easy for you and make it attractive and desirable for you, the easier it gets, because this is what we're doing right here. We're just making being disciplined more attractive. It's really all about proving to yourself that working on your goals and working on something meaningful is actually the most fun thing you can do. It has to be, you have to get to a place where all of the distractions, all of the leisure stuff becomes less attractive than your work. You don't get to that right away, but this is what we're building here. Because the more you work on your goals, the more you get progress, the more you get the feeling of purpose from your work. And you realize that sitting around and not doing anything, like playing video games, watching YouTube videos, scrolling, that all of these things are like nothing in comparison to actually working on a goal, actually having a purpose, and actually being disciplined. Like, that feeling is unmatched. Step 5 is mental hygiene. You need rest and balance. You're most productive when you actually have balance in your life and when you actually have some habits in place that kind of give you that mental reset. So things like meditation, journaling, reading, use those kinds of habits to balance your work. Rest in between 90-minute blocks, because that's how long you can focus. And in between those blocks, rest, read, meditate, take a walk, do something to get back to baseline. These kinds of habits are crucial because you have to get back into the present moment. When we're always working, we often get so in our head that we lose the present moment, and we get so stressed and so focused that we not only feel bad, we not only feel stressed, but we actually get less work done and we get less quality out of our work. So this is an absolute must. Stay as present as you can during your day. The more you can balance out your work with meditation, reading, walking, whatever gives you mental peace, mental clarity, the more productive you will end up being and the more quality your work actually has. And the 6th and last step is to build identity through repetition. Now, this is basically everything combined. This is what happens when you go through these steps. The more disciplined you are, the more consistent you are, the easier discipline gets over time. The easier it becomes for you to take action, because it becomes part of your self-image. And your self-image, your identity, controls everything in your life. It controls your relationships. It controls how you feel about yourself. It controls how people view you. It controls how much money you have. Everything you have and don't have, and everything you do and can't do, is determined by your identity, by how you see yourself. And to change that identity, you have to change your behavior. And if you follow this regimen, if you follow these 6 steps, You slowly shape your identity in a way that makes you see yourself as a disciplined person, as someone that gets the work done. And once you have adopted that mentality, that self-image, it becomes easy, it becomes effortless, because being disciplined just becomes an expression of who you are. You just do what needs to be done. And if you're lazy, if you struggle with discipline, then it's because you're seeing yourself as that person that is lazy, that doesn't want to work, that distracts themselves with pleasure, whatever. You always see yourself as the person that you are right now. And if you change that self-image, your circumstances start to change. And you can't just change how you think about yourself in your head. You have to change your actions and your behavior. This is the key to all kind of change. If you change your behavior, you slowly change how you see yourself. And that's actually what creates the change in your circumstances. So discipline is a game of identity in the end. And by following these 6 steps or these 5 steps, the last one is basically everything put together. By following these steps, you're slowly shaping your identity to become a disciplined person. And that's what you will just be then. That's what you just operate as. You will be disciplined because that's an expression of who you are. So I hope this video helped you. Subscribe if it did. Drop a like. Check out my newsletter because I go way more in depth into these kinds of topics, and I actually wrote a letter on this specific topic. I'll put the link in the description. Check it out, it's free. And write in the comments if there's anything I missed that you've maybe in the past experienced that helps you with discipline, or if you have any questions about this topic. Other than that, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.